We'll call the meeting of the Municipal Airport Authority, City of Fargo for March 22nd, 2022 to order. First item on the agenda, approve minutes from the regular meeting on March 8th.
So my only change is I was actually physically here.
Yeah.
Oh, I will change that.
Arms and legs, I know.
So moved. We have a motion. Can we get a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation or other changes? None? Roll call. Lind?
Aye.
Osgood?
Aye.
Captain?
Aye.
Hingham? Aye. Move on to airport vouchers totaling $299,175.58. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the vouchers.
We have a motion. Second, please.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any conversation, concerns? None? Roll call. Lind?
Aye.
Osgood?
Aye.
Captain?
Aye.
Hingham? Aye. Moving on to item number 3, approve the individual vouchers. A, Flint Communications, $18,937.93. CMTA, $1,875. Mead and Hunt, $15,232. A second for Mead and Hunt, $55,495.28. Item E, CMTA, $2,300. Item F, TL Stroh Architects, $44,351.03. Item G, Mead and Hunt, $4,015. Can I have a motion?
Move for approval. And I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Any conversation, concerns? None? Roll call. Lind?
Aye.
Osgood? Aye. Capitan?
Aye.
Hingham? Aye. Moving on to item number 4, receive a presentation from Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development. All right, gentlemen, we'll probably just have you come up in the corner over here, Mr. Asha and Mr. Esso. You can take them off. Yep, absolutely. So,
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Joe Race. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Fargo-Moorhead EDC, and with me this morning is Ryan Ostheim. Ryan is our Chief Business Development Officer. And first, I want to thank all of you and the staff and Sean for your continued support of the EDC and our efforts. Just as a quick refresher, the organization that we represent is 75 years old. Started out as an industrial development corporation back in 1946. Today, our mission is still the same as it was 75 years ago, which is to support primary sector companies who are either in our marketplace, and there are about 500 of those businesses out of the 13,000 that are here, to attract new primary sector companies and to help see the creation of those types of businesses in the region. Quickly, a primary sector business is one who generates most of their income from selling their products and services nationally and globally. So they don't depend on the local marketplace for their livelihood. And without those, you don't bring money into the economy that then gets churned with a lot of other businesses. When we work with companies, these primary sector businesses, whether they're located here in our region or we're trying to attract them into the marketplace, there are 2 major concerns that we get asked all the time. Bet you can guess what the first one is: workforce, right? How do you attract, retain the workforce that's needed by those companies? The second is they need a physical place to locate. And if they don't have a physical place to locate quickly to make their decision, because again, they don't have to be here to serve their customers, then they're going to look at other locations as they go through the process of finding where the best place to grow their business is. In fact, I was just talking with a company yesterday that has 3 locations in our region, and in the next 3 years, they're going to either build here again, or they're going to locate somewhere in the Southeast. And one of the criteria is we have to have a place to grow our company. And what usually happens is when they say that, what they mean is we need to see a piece of land that has all of the information available on it, or it's site ready or shovel ready or document ready. Those are terms that are used interchangeably. About 3 years ago, we started the process of creating such a program, a document ready site program for this region. There wasn't one in place. The state of Minnesota had a statewide program, and there are other states and regions around the country that have these programs. What we're seeing today that we saw at some level before the pandemic, but it's happening at even a more critical level, is that if you do not have these sites available for them to locate, you're off the list. You're no longer coming back on us. So what we've done is we've hired a third-party consultant who's well-known and very reputable, not only in the nation, but globally, to help us build this program. And really what it amounts to is it's information about the site. So in your handouts, and we'll leave extra copies, and on our website, fmedc.com, you can see a link right to on the homepage of our website that goes into these types of properties. It explains the program. But essentially what the program is it provides information to that buyer about a piece of land, the price, the utilities, the environmental studies, the geological studies, everything that's needed for somebody to say, hey, I want to buy this piece of property and I want to build a facility on it. Why we came here today is because right now we have 2 sites certified. And by the way, we don't choose the site, we don't own the site. We've only paid to create the program and do the certification. It's going to be the property owner who's responsible for doing all the necessary work to get that site certified at some level. And we have 4 different levels of certification. There are 2 sites certified in our region today, the Makara Industrial Site in Moorhead and the HomeQuest site, which is just north here of the Amazon facility. We have several other sites that are going through this process and have just spoken to the leadership at NDSU's Research Park, and they're interested in looking at this as well. Well, the airport has a little land, and some of that land, and I've seen this in other work that I've done in other parts of the country, where airport authorities will actually sell land or lease land, I guess, to companies, especially if they have an aviation focus, or maybe it's a UAS or some kind of focus. So I briefly mentioned this to Sean as we were talking about what was happening at NDSU and in the region. And I understand that there is some land, about 40 acres, of land on the, what direction is this? Southeast or southwest, thanks. There might be an opportunity for all of you to look at this program and say, is this worth it for us? And you may have a lot of this information already, quite frankly, on the property. But we wanted to put this in front of you today as something to think about and consider, is this something that might be viable and important to the airport authority when you look at the overall growth of the airport, just like we look at the overall growth of the regional economy and trying to continue to support companies that want to locate here. Any questions, comments that anybody has?
Don't have.
The property that he's referring to was, south of, out in this area. We've had companies that have approached us about leasing it. Others that have looked at it. I think I can find in this area here. That would be the candidate. And it's for non-aeronautical purposes. It's
Yeah, and again, we just want to make you aware of the program that's been developed and the importance of it that we see when we have existing or new companies looking into the market. The more that we have certified across the region, the better for us. And since this is such a great piece of land, we thought we'd at least know what we're doing.
the proactive nature of this, does it allow for a time frame or a compressed time frame for these companies to step in, start?
Yeah.
Is it a year or 2 years? I mean,
Well, that's exactly what the program's done, is because, we've seen more in the last year, but even prior, when I was doing this type of work in Iowa, we built a program like this in an industrial park, in a research park, in an aviation center, because even at that time, that was the question. The companies and their consultants would come in and say, if you don't have these things ready, this adds 6 months or more to our project, and we can't fit that into our timeline, therefore we're gonna go in another direction. Yeah, so that's exactly why we're doing it.
Jeff Klein's here from Meeting House. I don't remember, I have to get our file out. Is this property that I referred to the alfalfa field in our environmental study that you're doing right now?
I don't believe it is. Okay. So, but it certainly could be added.
We've got a comprehensive environmental thing going on right now, so.
John, that land east of University Drive, is that all still considered clear zone?
Or is there a portion of it that could be used for
One
that?
portion to the north that could be developed adjacent to County 20, but primarily everything to the south is
Is all,
in.
all in, yeah.
And there's different levels of certification. Obviously, the higher the level, the more documentation that's done. And what we're trying to do is just get those interested parties at least at a bronze level. And then over time, they may go, oh, we can complete this study, or we can add this piece of infrastructure, which takes it up to a higher developable level.
That's a good program, and with your direction, I'll work with Joe and Ryan to see where we can take this piece of property.
And we'd love to work with you on it. You know, if there's follow-up questions that anybody has, just please let us know.
Jim? The only comments I have is I think this is a great program. We have a ton of land. I would love to incentivize the use of that land in something other than farming. I've said this a few times before. The only caveat that I will add is that we have to put a height requirement on any structure going up so that somebody doesn't put a big smokestack up and then it wrecks our circling minimums for the aircraft that use the area that, you know, facilitate the airport. So that would be we had to talk to the FAA and find out what the terms require.
And just, that's pretty much known for a lot of the companies and consultants we'll work with when they're around an airport. They're gonna understand that. And obviously you control, you know, that decision point on whether you want to have a long-term lease to.
Having to file someplace the maximum height of the building out here by the radar, so that's gonna be. But I'd rather than file someplace, and the FAA allowed us to move forward with non-aeronautical development. We've got some of the information. Water and sewer is readily available next to it. Electricity obviously is readily available. Fiber's right there. So it might be pretty easy to get it converted.
I'll never say that, having worked on several of these, but I know, Sean, what you're saying. You feel there's a lot of infrastructure there, and that's generally the case with what we see.
I think we're willing to work. Move this forward. Do we need to put it to a motion of the board? Move forward as just work in progress? Work in progress. All right.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
Joe.
thanks,
Ryan, thank you.
everybody.
Joe.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on. Thank you. That's good to know. And as Eric said, the farmland we have is great to have as farmland, but higher and better use is always beneficial to the taxpayers. Number 5, receive bids and recommendations to award from TL Stroh Architect for the parking exit plaza project. Gary, do you want to chime in here, or do you have your letter?
Yeah, can you hear me?
It's like you're in an echo chamber.
Oh, really? Let me see if it's,
Are you on speakerphone?
yeah, well, not on the computer, so,
Yeah, we can't understand you.
okay.
Phone from the cell, maybe?
Better?
Yes, that's better.
That's better? Okay. As you see in the letter that we had, we had our bids received on March 8th. We had 2 bidders in each category except for mechanical. You'll notice the letter recommends Powers, TF Powers Construction for general, Peterson Mechanical for mechanical, Sun Electric for electrical, and TF Powers for civil construction. If you scroll down then to or go to the next page, you'll see that we only had 1 mechanical bidder. We had at least 6 people take out bids for that. We had 4 people take out bids for the general, and we had 6 people take electrical bids out. Actually, I'm sorry, there was only 4 on mechanical, I guess, and only 1 bid it. Then we had a couple of people that didn't do their forms correctly, so we couldn't open their bid, which is always really unfortunate. So you can see the numbers there with general being almost $1.5 million and mechanical being 100,000, electrical being 327,000. Now that includes a bit of redoing of power and getting a lot of stuff moved from the current location to the new location. That's probably the bulk of that. Obviously, the building isn't that much. And then there was some lighting as well in there. And then the concrete paving Powers is using I want to say K&L Construction. And so it's basically just the paving around the site. So in the civil plans, we have this area where we demo all the asphalt and then replace it with concrete. So we'll be, hopefully watching that really close this time. The 210 days for the construction is, I would say, maybe suspect depending on, deliveries of things. Things are starting to loosen up a little bit, but we do have some issues with a few things yet. So we were kind of thinking after looking at all the different things that was going to be somewhere between $1 million or $2 million and $2.5 million. So this was a good thing in terms of coming in at 2.318 million. So yeah, we're excited about it, and I believe we've got contracts to Stacy to review and ready to send those out with your approval.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Can I get a motion to approve?
We'll move.
A second?
Yeah.
Any conversation, concerns?
The only thing I'll mention is that this doesn't include a contract that'll be coming from Terry for construction administration, and it doesn't include the restoration of the existing exit plaza area. That'll be done the following year, so in 2023. That's a separate bid item where we're going to add the additional spaces. They will remove the booths. However, the area where the exit plaza is now is not included in this. That's a separate item. I don't believe it can be this year. I think it'll be early next year. Correct, Jeff?
My understanding was the new exit plaza was small. That new booth needs to be up and operational.
That's only coming ahead.
I can't believe that these contractors, many decades that they've been in business, they put their forms in the wrong envelope. I think it's more done on purpose than anything.
No, I don't think so. We're finding a lot of times in this kind of public bids that these contractors are busy, and so they get the stuff put together, they get the information for the bid, and then they give it to somebody in the office to put together, and that somebody doesn't know what they're doing. So, yeah.
Hey, Terry, are you giving them Northern Improvement that feedback that they got it wrong so they don't do it again?
Yeah, well, we called both of them up, and they were, Northern, kind of get maybe other contractors that don't bid a public work that often, but Northern Improvement would have done this all the time. So yeah, I don't
Frank
understand.
McCormick was here himself, so he was like, "You got to be kidding." So yeah, and it's very clear. It's spelled out exactly what goes in each envelope. It's crystal clear in black and white. There's no confusion whatsoever, but there was. All right, we got a motion in a second. Yep. Lind?
Aye.
Cosgrove?
All right.
Capitan?
Aye.
Hingham?
Aye. Moving on to number 6, receive bids and recommendations from Mead and Hunt for East Economy Parking Lot. Jeff, you wanna come up here? See ya. Thanks, Terry.
All right,
Welcome.
I believe all of you received a copy of the bid tabulation for the economy. So, which we opened bids for last Thursday. They're tabulated there as follows. Border State Saving here in Park was a little bidder at $1.75 million. I will note that, Northern Improvement had an error in their summation of their unit prices. All the unit prices were, correct. They just didn't total it properly. It was off by $100, from what they had indicated in their bid number. So just, after we opened the bid, they had gone back, reviewed all their, verified the date on their contractor's license to make sure that was current. They had their bid bond, they had all their good faith effort for the. So everything checks out. I don't have a, list of subcontractors that they propose to use. But I heard a rumor that they will use, Master Construction, for, concrete paving as well as underground. I didn't know, so I still need to confirm that. Border States has done a workout here in the past. They did the, power rental lot that's north of the wash facility, and I believe they did the West Economy lot. I don't know if you recall that, Sean, or not.
I don't.
So,
Yeah.
So they've done a few projects out here. We've done projects with them last year out at Moorhead Airport and Hillsborough Airport, and we've had, very good success, with them. Is all, continuing the discussion on the, all the upfront documentation. In our specifications, we literally have a checklist of, you know, fill this form out, put it in this envelope, fill this form out, put it in this envelope, and that's attached right in the front end documentation, so they can just go down the line. And, the Lean Brothers obviously didn't follow the checklist because they came, and Darren Anderson actually pointed out to them that, you know, their bid security envelope was pretty thick. All the proper documentation in there, and they had, you know, 5-10 minutes to get it straightened out before the bid opening. So, I guess what I'm gonna do from now on at all, like pre-bid meetings, is make a note that, you know, walk them through step by step on what goes in to each of the envelopes in addition to the checklist, because there's too much time and effort and money that's put into these bids for them to just get thrown out on technicality. And I think it's in the best interest of, the airport, I guess, to open as many bids as possible, because, you know, there's that one that gets thrown out maybe a little bit. But it happens, you know, we had a bid here a couple weeks ago. I wasn't involved with it, but the contractor provided an outdated contract. Anyway, any questions on this, or?
Do we really want a contractor that can't follow instructions?
That's exactly.
Good idea. If they self-select out, I think we should let them.
Just point out that $480,000 of this is, underground detention facility for stormwater treatment, so that's a big, big fee when we were just a little ways away from the ditch over here, so.
Just don't want any surface water in the ground.
Great.
I guess my recommendation is to award it to Border States Paving.
All right, can I get a motion?
I'll approve the motion to approve Border States Paving for the contract.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any conversation?
You have some conversation. Is there, Jeff, is there any way, you said we don't have any power, electrical power, outlets surrounding current, facility over there? So
No, nothing, there's
Not yet,
no,
right?
vehicle outlets currently in the plans, but it's certainly something that added in.
Okay, so
If so, the airport goes to.
Darren had said, at our last meeting, off camera, that, somebody had called and asked if there was, ability to plug their car in. And it could be like a level 110 outlet, to plug in their block heater or maybe a long-term, charging outlet for their electric vehicle. And, we don't have any of that, ability at this point in the contract, and I was wondering if we could add that in. So if one person's asking for it, 20 other people probably looking for it. And if we're gonna build for the future, might as well put it in now, and it will be only more expensive if we wait. So I was, wondering if the board would consider adding that to the,
Well, I wouldn't, because generally the charging port should be in short term. And not where a electric vehicle is sitting there for 7 to 10 days. That's not efficient use for anybody. So for this, I wouldn't, but I agree, we do have to start accounting for the fact that people will use more and more electric vehicles, and that we have to build that into our planning process.
so 110 outlet would be a very, very long charge on an electric vehicle. It's not meant to be for a charging station. It would just be for supplemental. So it would be, if we added 20, little spots, so you could plug in your block heater or whatever you wanted, and it would be, something that would be available to them if they wanted it. It wouldn't necessarily be in an EV parking.
Are we gonna be monitoring these plugins, or how are we gonna do that? Just give them the electricity for that period of time? That would be, I imagine the cost of that probably of regulating, monitoring, and billing, it would be more than the cost of.
I think it's charge.
Less.
I agree, we have to start that process of including it and understanding that it's coming. I don't know the long-term parking feasible.
As far as to what Strang said, is that the project to restore the west exit plaza next year may be an opportunity to look at some plugins for the short-term lot for electric vehicles. But if you recall, when we engaged the car rental agencies here just in the last 6 months, they didn't see the need for any plugins for the car rental industry here for a couple of years, maybe even 3 years, all that conversation. But doesn't mean that the general public, I see more Teslas around town now than they have in the past. I've never taken a call for anyone concerned that they couldn't plug in their car, but it's not to say that that project next year to restore the exit plaza couldn't include some type of a plaza, if you will, where you can put in some charging stations.
We have it in the employee lot. We have outlets there.
I don't even know if they work. Do they work, Dan? Maybe once in a while?
They're actually on the thermostat, so it has to be below 10 degrees outside for it to come on.
Interesting.
They're
Block
just for blocking.
Yeah. So I think it could be done. I think maybe before down in Watertown at the Hy-Vee store, they've got this collection of 6 charging stations out in the parking lot at the store, and everybody looks at like, what are those for? But they have them there, but there was a state grant. I've chatted with Tony Grinberg at Excel, and there are resources with the state, possibly with Excel coming forward, that will help to offset some of that cost. They're focusing more on, maybe airports can be in the mix, but Convention Bureau site, things along the interstate. West Acres, I don't know if they have any yet. We'll get there. Whether it's this project or one next year.
I think closer to the airport and parking area.
We hit $5 gas in Fargo, there's gonna be a tsunami of electric vehicles in this area. So, it's coming, it's just a matter of time when it's.
I think it's a good idea to at least get the systems in there, whether you use them right away or not. At least the electrical power is there. You don't have to, do the excavation and put it in later.
I think you could put the conduit in.
Yeah.
And it's always a question, what was that?
And why is it full of water now? Right.
But no, that's sort of the great unknown in all this, that who's supposed to pay for the electricity to charge the cars?
The user, the vehicle user should pay.
Well, we're charging them to park there. you know, and I would guarantee that the amount of electricity that they're using is going to be less than what they charge, you know. So I charge my electric vehicle in my car, in my garage every day, and that's a 220 outlet, and it costs me about, when I put it in, my electric bill went up about $30 a month. So about $1 a day to charge my car. And so if we're charging them $6 a day and it's costing them $1 a day, we're still getting a net of $5. So, but we're trying to incentivize people to come. We're trying to say, hey, this is available for you. If you want to come here and plug in your car, it's available for you. It might take 7 days for you to charge up your Tesla Model 3 or whatever, because they take a really long time on 110 outlets. But if we can get them to park here, then it's still more money than if they were to get dropped off, which is our major competition. Just trying to facilitate their needs going forward.
And for the purpose of this bid, as has already been let, we're gonna have to play it out as is rather than amend and go back as we would have.
Is that accurate? We would change the bid?
Well, you certainly have, but. Yes, there's right. Sure.
Wondering when the good idea ferry cutoff point is, where we're past the point of adding it as a change order. At what point do we need to action something for the east economy lot?
You do it at any time. I don't think you need to make a decision today. I think this will be resolved within the.
All right, good discussion. Can we have roll call? Yes, Lind?
Aye.
Cosgrove?
Aye.
Capitan?
Aye.
Hangan? Aye. Moving on to number 7, receive update from FM CVB request for sponsorship. At the last meeting, you advised me to refer the sponsorship level to Flint, and you have an email from Tara recommending for the international roundup that'll be here May 14th and 17th at the Leather Lariat level for 1,000. We had another request from the National Federation of Press Women, assuming that you'd want Flint to refer that. I did. And she's recommending kind of at the lower level, so probably somewhere in the Red River level, to sponsor that conference that'll be here in June. So move to accept the recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, question. What was it, the International Women's Press Convention? Is that the name of it?
National Federation of Press Women.
Is that something that the airport has supported in the past?
It's never been here before that I'm aware of. If it has, I'm not aware of it.
I was just kind of curious, is this something, it's not really in the scope of things that we typically support. It's not a, chamber kind of thing. It's not an aviation business. It's not anything like that. It's just a random, hey, will you throw some cash at us? I didn't see the value in supporting a topic of this nature, that's all.
So I think when an organization of pool of press people is around, I think you'd want to butter them up a little bit, and this would be a way to butter them up a little bit because they are coming into Fargo. Be blunt.
Mr. Chairman, I always struggle with these taxpayer-supported entities. So we start to motion of charitable giving. As a recommendation going forward, we might, instead of taking these sort of one-off as they come, and we do a budget, set an amount for these type of events and then work off that. Some control of it, but just react them as they come.
I do think Sean referred it to our advertising and marketing consultant. They thought it of value, correct?
You know, the one for the CVB, this National Federation of Press Women, kind of neutral, but, you know, at the lower level, not really excited about that one. Don't disagree with them.
Can I have a motion? This is for both, not just one, or make it for one,
Can we split them?
if you wish.
I would make a motion to approve the, what was the other one? Charlie Johnson, what's the name?
The International Roundup.
The international, I will make a motion to approve the international roundup for the, amount that the, Flint had advised, but, I wasn't in favor of supporting the press one, so I will make a motion to approve the international roundup. Anyone else?
Second. We have a motion and a second for, one of the two contributions. Any conversation? None? Roll call.
Lind.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Hingham.
Aye. And so no one's interested in supporting the, women in press.
I am not.
Okay.
At this time.
Anyone else? None? Okay, then we move on. Item number 8, authorized purchase of, gray coat, line laser airfield paint.
Our Airfield Operations Supervisor Andrew Holman put together 3 bids to replace the unit, when our line striper, it's a ride-along machine that takes care of, you know, the runway hold short lines, a lot of marking that we have out on the airfield. It's used pretty extensively. Epic Solutions was the lowest cost at $30,605.76. Diamond Vogel was in excess of, let's see here, $31,200. They have a discount. And then Sherwin-Williams had a price of $35,385. So I'd recommend that you'd approve the Epic Solutions bid.
Can I get a motion?
Well, so moved.
In a second?
Second.
Any conversation, discussion? None, roll call.
Lind.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Hingham.
Aye. Move on to number 9, receive communications from ARI and C regarding installation of new equipment and new lease agreements.
There's a lot of information here. Stacy and I have had a chance to review it. For many, many years, ARC Inc. has had a small cabinet in the basement of the terminal here, paying us $300 a year. They want to add on to that cabinet and equipment a little bit more in the footprint and pay us $150 a month. Talked them into a little bit more money. I think in your packet, there was pictures of what their equipment looks like, and recommend that you would approve this agreement to be effective April 1st.
What do they do exactly?
ARC Inc., they capture,
Here.
you know, Air Inc., I'm sorry. You know, when they release a flight lands, it's basically collecting aircraft data, being the pilot, you know.
It's a nationwide, communication system too for, emergency kind of stuff, so a lot of dispatch, when dispatch locations will have to talk to airplanes in flight, and they use this Air Inc. network, and it's a nationwide ground-based network where they transmit the stuff up, so.
Can I get a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any conversation? None? Call for the vote.
Lind.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Hingham.
Aye. Move on to number 10, authorize attendance at self-container breathing apparatus class.
Chief Bush has asked to send 2 of our ARF employees to Pittsburgh for this class so they can be trained and then upon training, be responsible for all the care and maintenance of the self-containing breathing apparatuses that we have here at our ARF station. I'd recommend that you approve the travel.
Moved as requested.
Second. Can I get a second?
Oh, second.
Any discussion? None? Vote.
Lind. Cosgrove.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Engen.
Aye. Move on to number 12, receive communications from Dr. Glatt regarding sale of.
Number 11.
Oh, excuse me, apologies. Authorize attendance to the 94th annual AAA conference.
So this is, 94 years that they've had the Triple E conference. So I'll be attending there in May. Board members are certainly welcome to attend. Our national committees that I'm on meet along with our Great Lakes chapter, and a lot of people head to Seattle in June.
Right, motion.
Approved, so moved.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any conversation, communication? None? Vote.
Lind.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Engen.
Aye. I'll receive communication from Dr. Glatt regarding sale of Peterson.
The communication Joel Peterson got from Dr. Glatt with the specifics on the hangar. This hangar is located in the South General Aviation area. The hangar association shared with Dave Boyd. So Joel bought half of this hangar. Sometimes we get notice of these sales, sometimes we don't. At least we did. So Stacy's prepared an assignment to Lease and sent. That is one of the signers. Northwest hangars. Ending term of the lease, get in the facilities.
Motion?
Motion.
Wait a second. Motion, second. Any conversation, discussion? None? Call for the vote.
Lind.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Engen.
Aye. Number 13, receive communication from the City of Fargo Finance Committee and draft regarding Ed Bailey.
Mike Regenluger provided me a copy of this on March 17th. I'd asked for an update, and this is the draft, I guess, that Kent Austin had wrote a memo to the Finance Committee. Basically looking at three different things, some recommendations on investment of cash reserve, financial reporting practices, and lease agreements. So I don't know if there's any other action that the Finance Committee is going to take. Kent didn't know, Mike didn't know, so I guess I'm not sure. In draft form right now.
Well, Mr. Chairman, do we want to look at their suggestion to act? Be very simple. They're asking, they're suggesting that's what the ladder of CDs for surplus cash. The only thing I would say about that is that the limitations to political subdivision do have some soft edges to it. And if you look at the Fargo Dome surplus fund, it's managed by the State Investment Board as a investment, not a ladder of CDs. So they're able to invest in stocks and they have about 40 million, similar amount as the airport. And I haven't looked at their returns lately. Overall State Investment Board, I think it'd be in the 8.
Maybe, but does it fall outside of the scope of the century code for what we can invest?
Well, it's a very similar situation. If you look at Fargo Dome, was funded sales tax dollars. And, you know, Stacy, maybe you could look at it, at how that's designated, but those funds can be invested for, into, stocks and bonds, achieve higher returns. So, a matter of understanding, can that be done? What are the limitations of it? But, you know, when you see the Fargo Dome, it's an entity of the City of Fargo subdivision using state investment as their investment, a lot of efficiency in that process. So, you know,
I did have a conversation with them after the last time that you had mentioned it, and I have another update tomorrow at 2:00 with them. It's on a Zoom, and you'd be more than welcome to.
if you want to take a look at it, the comprehensive annual financial board of the state investment board have a section on Fargo. They have an investment policy, I think, very similar to this. Purpose of the fund, it's stated, it's the recognizing the value of the asset, city that it to that. You know, and if we're talking about a 0.25%, we're not $30 million, $250,000 accrued.
The only thing is, we haven't had laddered CDs. We never have had laddered CDs. The initial investment by the board, when they went out for bid, was CDs, but when they came due, they chose not to because the rate was better in the current interest vehicle that we're in. So Mike was gonna correct that. We don't do CDs. Tomorrow, and I think I invited you and Rick to meet with the wealth managers from First International Bank to give us an update on possibly some higher interest bearing opportunities for us under the state statute, if you're willing to chat with them. There was a Zoom that was sent out, or I can send that to you, John, if you like. But my recollection from the state investment board, and their attorney is the one that's gonna call me tomorrow, is that it was like a minimum 25 million. There was a minimum amount. And based on what we had to tie that much money up, knowing that we've got some projects coming, I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. I think that was the conversation before, is that they required a pretty significant minimum amount.
Well, and again, this is where an investment manager would help you with this. It's a, you know, take a look at your cash position. Guessing over the last 5 years, if you look at cash that's always been reserved. So you're going to look at what your transaction cash is. But this goes a little bit further. If you're holding cash back, you're holding 30 million back, and foregoing, just for sake of discussion, an 8% return on the cash, you're effectively transferring 8% cost into your financing project. Hey, we don't borrow money. Well, you're giving up 8% return. So you'd have to get into the situation where you can do interim construction financing, tax exempt bonds that might be 2 or 3%. That may make more fiscal sense to do interim construction financing and leave the money earning those type of situations. And it's just trying to squeeze every dollar available. But with a $30 million balance, and Rick, I think you can discuss this, there's ways to maximize the return of that and create additional dollars for the authority for discretionary spending. Now, some of that has to go back and figure out why Fargo Dome dollars are not subject to sort of the government, invest only in government guaranteed. They're able to do it, and if you look through where the state investment board is investing, it's a number of political subdivisions, pensions, and different funds that there's economies to that whole process. Investing at that level, get into their economies. There's also needs to be more planning to what's your cash flow going to look like for the year, so they can position the portfolio to exit investments once cash is needed, or carry more cash in their balance. It's all doable.
Will you be available tomorrow?
Probably not tomorrow. You know, I think if we're, I would just suggest if we're gonna go down that road, we should look at, doing an RFP for investment managers and, you know, gather all that information at the same time. Always a little bit awkward when you talk to one and another.
So my concern is always the scope of the skill sets are all good, but the scope based on the century code and what we're allowed to do under the code. And we may be overly conservative, but the dollars need to be here for projects that the FAA opens up and says, yes, do, or we see and deem necessary. Unfortunately, I think they said we had a $30 million surplus. If you look at our CIP and the construction projects we have due, I think we have a $100 million shortfall, unfortunately. So.
Well, and it's managing your transactional dollars, it's treasury function.
Yeah, but we're assuming that the federal government's gonna support FAA and federal government will support us with a ratio. We don't know if that's gonna change, and I'd sooner be conservative, have the dollars here and available, not at risk than not. But again, that's an ongoing and evolving conversation. That could be had every meeting almost.
And how you fund the project too. That's to do an interim financing with tax-exempt bonding as opposed to using cash reserves. That's just all how the dollars fall out.
Efficiency.
But I think in the RFP, we would certainly call out that they'd have to demonstrate experience in working with political subdivisions in compliance with, you know, both state and federal laws.
Does the state investment board respond to those RFPs? Do you know?
Well, first of all, we would have to figure out, can we qualify this pool of money in the sense that they could invest it other than complying with just restricted environment of government dollars. I was involved in that, and I just can't remember about that.
We don't need to formally receive.
No,
this.
so I'll somehow get the invite out to Stacy and I don't know if Rick, so we can get some more information, which political subdivisions they're working with and under what, guidelines.
What section of the code apply?
Well, and just as a point of information here, Ken Costin does retire April 1st. Well, Sean, I'm sure you're aware of that, but there's going to be some transitional issues as a new person comes into that position and understanding everything. So suggest that you plan for a little extra time and maybe longer discussions about certain. It takes 30 years of institutional history with them, so.
Missed. All right, any more discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, ground lease agreements was, also one of those discussion items that they, were talking about, and we had just talked about it at our last meeting, did we? We not, or 2 meetings ago, I don't remember, but, what we decided was that, does that constitute, solution, you know, for what they recommended, or resolution, I should say? Did we satisfy what they were, concerned about, if they
Well,
ground lease?
pricing, as we talked at the last meeting, it's, your predecessors and previous council was that our lease agreements indicate that the rental rate is subject to change on every anniversary date of the lease. So if you sign a lease on May 1st, every May 1st through a 10-year lease, it could change versus putting in an escalator clause. Some airports have that and now might feel that they're priced out of the market. Rick and I are going to meet again this afternoon to try and get some more groundwork on that. And I think I shared with you at another meeting, I had Jordan go out and we're missing a couple of airports, Hillsborough and Aberdeen, but really if someone's going to buy an aircraft in this area, we're competing with West Fargo, Castleton, Moorhead, Holly, Detroit Lakes, Wahpeton, Hillsborough. I don't know that we are with Aberdeen so much, but we're really not out of the range, I think, with those pure airports. But as Cosgriff had said, you know, what is the discount for being at the airport? If it's 40 cents across the fence, but yet there's no reversionary clause. We have a reversionary clause, you know, how does that all impact it? And Ben Hushka and Marv Heaton, when in the assessor's office, always significantly discounted the airport rental rate because of those things, the security, the reversionary clause, you build it today, it's ours at the end of the term. It was just kind of a negative environment towards what that rate should be, and maybe with Rick's expertise, a little bit more with Mr. Cosgrove, if we can come up with what is that actual rate.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I can just tell you what they have with the research park. I think what they might be getting at is that, yes, you always have the clause that you advise the lease rate, but what is the policy or the procedure? What we might want to look at is that at each anniversary date or whatever, there would be a process that would simply be repeated to keep those lease rates current to the market. Some of the problems is if you pick, for example, if prior to the last 6 months, if you pick consumer price index, the last 10 years, it didn't change. So there was no adjustment. But again, there's a process that as lease comes up, it goes back and setting that procedure. What we tend to do is just look at comparable sales and what that translates in per square foot price in the open market, and then what we charge is based off that. So anybody kind of, as this procedure did, looking back, say, well, yes, it's based on 1970. Here, based on current land value, argue about, well, was there the discount to sort of a foundation or to? I think what we want to work towards this, kind of pick the procedure, maybe Rick. Not foolproof, not perfect. It's repeatable.
Past practice has been to call the assessor's office in Fargo and say, here's our rates, what do you think? Marv or Ben at that time would do it. I haven't made much of my own pressure on it as we're starting this discussion. I mentioned before, our commercial rate that UPS, FedEx, and some of the others are paying started with board member Tracy Myers. He engaged 3 commercial realtors that came up with the rate, capped out at the top of what that rate recommendation was back in 1995. But that's how they went about it. Engaging the industry to do it, but there's many ways to do it. I don't know how West Fargo Castle or these other airports do it. We're not really out of line with what they're doing. If the others, more at 10 cents, they have a 3% increase, but 3% might be out of the market right now for what it should be. Ollie's just $75 a hanger. Detroit Lakes, they're anywhere from 17 to 24 cents, depending on the age of the hanger. They have a minimum square footage for a lease. Lofton's at 8 cents for a private hangar, 22 cents for a commercial. So it's all over the board.
One that you also have to kind of take a look at what are the reasons for this. If it's location based or that you're building on leased land, the whole concept of leased land is that they have the ability to run the lease out for the life of the building. So really what reverts back in land. That's just the concept. Some people can get their head around it, others. But with a 100-year lease, you expect the building appreciated value 0. So work back. It might be more of a liability than you get that building with you.
I sent Stacy last night a new article that came out on reversion rate on for that to all of you. It's pretty opening and how controversial it is around the country.
Well, it creates a real problem for you at the end of land lease. Quite a huge disincentive.
That's in the article as well. Corporate do, private may not, but everything. I'll meet with Rick out here at 2:30 today, 2:30 today, if you want to come and chat or give your input, please do. Not sure we'll get anywhere, but at least maybe we'll have a format going forward where we can chat.
Well, I think what we need to do is have some sort of process follow. Research Park, in all our leases, got price index. Per year, I did the calculations, come up, yep. But the process was there, anybody looking back, those were 25-year leases based on rates 25 years ago, yes. Price index. Period.
Mr. Callister and Eric bring up a good point. I'm wondering whether we should have just a working group of 2 members working on it as well, just creating a process and crafting it so we have a written process. That is something we can relay to every tenant. We've done
I
it.
think Mr. Sweeney asked for that too, is we were trying to take a specific lease and write policy on that lease.
Research with other airports, not these here, but commercial. At one point, I think Rick and I calculated the CPI. If you go to 27.
One-way ratchet up.
Yeah. But the CPI is what is identified in all of our cargo leases. That's the standard that FedEx and UPS deal with at airports across the country, and the language their attorneys process is what we use. And our language doesn't differ from Louisville or Memphis or any of the other ones, so.
Is there any correlation between the property tax bill for those tenants? Because they get a property tax bill, right?
No, if we charge 0 or paid them to be here, the city of county would get the same. No correlation.
We should look at the escalation in property tax.
I mean, the city will do an assessed value or improvement value, what's on the land.
Any other thoughts or concerns at this
We have
time?
2 members that would be on a subcommittee, those are public meetings. Subcommittee, they are assigned. We've done that a couple of times before, and we've had them in the public.
Yeah, you can have 2 members without,
The
but
board's
as
not,
soon as you get 3,
as long as the board's
then you
not
have to notify everybody.
As long as the board's not authorizing sub action.
Mr. Lynn, would you consider being on a subcommittee to build that model up? John?
I retract my,
Gonna have to have its own black box.
All right, is that a yes?
yes.
Okay, for consideration then. All right, let's move on. Number 14, received ground lease agreement with JP Development.
Okay, from the last meeting, the purchase of the Hamilton hangar at 3861 20th Street North, Stacy's prepared the ground lease agreements, they're ready for signature, so that sale can proceed. We did include the language, that was approved last year about the property subject to an annual inspection, and also that the, paragraph regarding the use of premises may be amended to reflect that the hangar shall be required to have and maintain an airworthy aircraft.
Motion.
Also moved?
Second. Second. Any conversation, discussion, or otherwise?
No, thank you.
Roll call. Lind.
Aye.
Codgriff.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye.
Hingham.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, just one thing.
Yes.
I think the other recommendation from the finance committee was, sort of a consolidated summary financial report, for board use. And I just would suggest asking the new providers there to maybe suggest what they would, put into a consolidated sort of 1 to 2 page.
We're about a month, maybe a month and a half behind on where we want it to be with the accounting. Everything's getting done, everybody's getting paid, it's accounted for. It's the transition of the books from the city with ending values and the trial balances that Jamie at Balance Tax and Accounting is working with. And, so she's going to provide to us, maybe by the next meeting, a variety of different report formats that you can look at and then decide which one is most valuable or most meaningful to you. There's a number of different ones that QuickBooks provides for you to take a look at. So I do,
And we may want them to do a custom report.
yes,
Probably the starting point is to ask them to show us what their recommendation is. But what I'm trying to do is take that 30, 40 page computer printout of trial balance, line items, and get it into 1 page that will allow sort of more high level review or understanding.
83, we'll see. Joan and I saw some of the examples. I think it's pretty flexible, the program that we have, unlike what we used before, which had no flexibility. But yeah, we'll get you some examples.
I think, John, one of the concerns is too, before they present a report, it has to be, closed out at the city. I don't think they want to be handing out information.
Yeah,
Still has a.
like I said, I don't know where that process is.
We
And I'm
still,
concerned with Kent leaving, but the person, airport authority, will probably still be there.
no, he left
She left
yesterday.
too.
Yesterday, Judy, which is our main contact after Jenica left. So we got Jamie Bullock yet, that's good. And they're great to work with down there. Don't get me wrong. Emily Schultz is working with us on some drawdowns. So we still have quite a bit of work to do to close out 2021. Flash, which put in our parking lot, we still owe them over 400,000, but SP Plus has now authorized them to send us the second pay request. The final one will be probably something.
Well, it's just a great time to do this with the transition. Ask them to suggest what they could do in reports and maybe.
Okay.
I would just be concerned they present something that has a adjustment from the city and what they present is not accurate. That'd be my first concern. I know there's an overlap several months into the new year, getting those.
I think the big one is the actuarial adjustment. The rest shouldn't.
It's pretty insignificant. I mean, there's accounts receivable, accounts payable stuff to finish out, but nothing that Jamie can't work with the city to do. However, our primary contact just abruptly left yesterday. So that's gonna set us back now. We'll see who's gonna get assigned her duties.
Yeah, the only thing there might be some surprises in receivables and payables that coded one way or another.
We've done the coding, so we pretty much do the coding, and other than a project number here or there that we catch, but no, we do the coding, so that's generated here. We'll be in good shape. So the other thing that is a significant delay in the financials is we're still waiting for Delta to pay us for December. A lot of airports are still waiting from October, November. And how we do our rates and charges with the airlines. So the timing of when the invoices go out for United, American, and Delta, because we have to use their systems to send the invoices. Frontier and Allegiant are just straight paper, or does Frontier have a system now?
It's American and Delta.
Delta. That is back to just normal invoices.
We just email
Okay.
those to them.
So what happens is so we have a 20% equal charge, so we know what they're paying 20% of all of the space in the terminal. 80% of it is based on employments. And then our aircraft rescue and firefighting is based upon percentage of gross landed weight, and then there's a security fee that will recover all of the costs for the Fargo officer that's here. And if we have charters and others, it depends on when they report to us what their passenger counts are, so we can send out accurate invoices to all of the others. And there's some significant delays with that, but we try and get all of that out as quickly as we can. So on the airline accounts receivable, there is maybe up to 45, 60 day delay possibly in getting that. That's how this is.
So the other thing on just to close the loop on this, we should send a note back, or memo. It's working.
Mike's aware, Mike isn't on here today, but, Commissioner Strand is on, so yeah, it's a work in progress, no doubt. But we'll get them whatever they need and from there, there'll be a subtle response. There'll be a response. I think we vote, what did we do, JD development, so we voted?
We did.
Good.
Received notice, of proposed bike path.
Rick Hodgson from the city of Fargo sent out a, well, this goes back to like October of 2021, there was a plan for a bike path that has heated up now in recent weeks. Over by the wastewater plant, we own some property east of the airport near 10th Street that we leased to the Fargo Park District some years ago, and they're planning to put a bike path through that property. Kind of the east half is leased to the Park District, NDSU farms the rest of it there. Stacy's reviewed it in terms of what the lease agreement says, and
So my initial thought is airport owns it, and so determination would have to come from airport authority. But when you look at the lease agreement itself, there is a section where the lessee gets to do what it wants on its own, which includes providing access to and from. The issue becomes is installing a bike path access. It wouldn't be the airport authority having to be the responsible person. Park district. I want to talk to the FAA, but there's a clause in there also about FAA. Those are erection improvements.
property was purchased with federal funds, and now there's this new emphasis from the FAA on Part 163, or one, that's the, and I sent you some more information on that last night. The 163 analysis, it's environmental. There could be some more hoops to jump through on this simple bike trail, and then we're
On the face of the lease, I think, okay, that the decision is being made by the park district, but I do want to be in touch with the business to walk through that.
called the 163 review, which they've really focused on in the last 2 years. It deals with all development of airport property that's in the airport land. And,
Store any snow there?
we don't know. We could.
Well, no, it's one of those where we're sort of like,
Yeah. Okay. So more to follow on this here, but it was more of a placeholder on the agenda to let you know that this is being talked about.
excited.
All right, number 16, construction and security update.
Probably nothing to report, still doing closeout reports. So we had our monthly meeting with the FAA last week and reviewed projects and where we're at with things. So really nothing to go there. The floor in the shop, Darren, did they do that work? Do we know? So the water that was dripping off vehicles and into the women's restroom, we believe that they've got that fixed. They're still working on some gaps that are present in the structure of the building with the overhead doors. Terry, do you have any update on that?
Yeah, Joe actually went up yesterday. We're looking at some products to, TL Stro has to take the blame on this one. It's basically a piece between the metal panel and the ground. We kept the metal panel up about 2 inches because in our environment, concrete likes to move up and down a little bit during the winter months and summer months. And so we have this gap, so we didn't crush our panels. And so we think we have a solution, working on getting some samples to give it a try and see how it works, and we'll be taking care of all that, so.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
We good?
Mr. Chairman, last meeting, we talked about redoing the airport beacon. And I wanted to ask Sean, is there a possibility that we could relocate it out of its current position in a whole bunch of lights and move it to a darker area of the airfield? It's very difficult to see our airport beacon at night when you're flying in from like the southeast. It's very hard to find it.
I think by the time the FAA got done with the reviews and locations, our beacon wouldn't work anymore, but, it's possible.
It's located in a center, on the South GA where there's all kinds of lights, and you're like, where the heck is the beacon? And then you're right on top of it before you see it. So if it was in a different part of the airport, more center, I would say more center of 3618, that would help to find it. I'm not the only one that says that. A lot of people say that all the time.
That for years.
Is there a way that we can request the FAA to kind of look into the situation? Right. Agreed. Just a question. So since we're getting a new airport beacon anyway, we get it somewhere else.
Where is it located now?
The old weather service, radar tower on the south.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Not easy to find.
Where to move it?
Just a question, so. And if it's
Anything else?
possible
The
to
only
move,
thing
then-
is, the foreign trade zone, the annual report was filed, so our consultant, worked with DigiKey and, CNH America, the case plant here to get that in before the deadline, which is the end of the month. I've got a copy of it here. It's, I'm gonna try and get it printed in a format that makes sense, but I'll send it out to you. It is consolidated for proprietary reasons. DigiKey and, CNH, all of their information is combined in the report that goes to the Foreign Trade Zone Board, but I'll see if I can get this in a better print format and send it out to you so you can see what the report looks like. So we're working with Mead and Hunt. They have a contract to look at the replacement of the bridge at Gate 4. We've had 2 meetings with Aero Bridge Works, which provides bridges but also refurbishes bridges. And we've engaged Stacy as we get the documents. We're looking at maybe possibly doing a piggyback of bridge bids that have been awarded at other airports around the country just recently, which do include the specifications for the bridge that we're looking at, like a 61-119, I think is the size bridge to replace the one at Gate 4. So with Jeff's help, maybe with Darren, we'll engage those airports to get those documents to Stacy to find out if their bidding process meets with what the state does. Our purchasing documented policy does allow us to do piggybacking. There's really only a couple of bridge manufacturers around. We wouldn't rule out the possibility of taking a refurbished bridge, but there is a brand new bridge that is available that was headed for Los Angeles. They changed their bridge project. It was going to be a dual bridge to board an A380, and they have this smaller bridge that was going to go into one of the back doors on the aircraft that they do have available for us that would work really well. We piggyback and decide to piggyback on Charlotte, or I forget what the other airports were. Charlotte, Memphis. There's a used bridge at Memphis that's a few years old that they could refurbish, but it sounds like the cost of doing that versus the new was not that much different. We do have the foundation in place to support the bridge, so maybe by the next meeting we'll have some information for you to see if we can authorize us to piggyback on a bid that was already done. We've piggybacked a couple of times on some other bids. Is there heat in this new one? I don't know that there is. There's PC air, but I don't know if the bridge itself is heated. Yeah, it's possible. Always welcome. Anyway.
I know we don't have heat in our bridges. It's unbelievable.
All right. Anything more for the order?
Mr. Chairman,
None? Yes.
just from the outside viewer's perspective, I don't know what's different today, but virtually tracking the conversation, there were a lot of
John,
gaps. Can you hear me okay?
Not very well.
Well, and I don't know, I was having trouble hearing some of the conversation today. Maybe it's my computer, but when the mics were down, when Eric or John Cosgrove were speaking, they'd be fading in and out today quite a bit.
Okay, that's good feedback, John. We'll see what we can do with the microphones and the tone. Let's just maybe have to speak up a little bit louder. Sorry about that. don't hesitate to chime in to say, hey, we can't hear you. Please do.
John, can we use the city chambers, with, and they've got all the cameras and everything to accommodate. Do you think that'd be possible?
I would guess so.
I know for the staff and everything, it's nice to be here, but, their system's really nice. I mean, it's got the cameras, the voice activated.
I don't know, was anybody on the call, was there any other issues?
Mr. Blazik might. Mr. Blazik, were you able to hear all right?
I too struggled hearing, from time to time.
I could hear everybody around the table, but as soon as you got away from the table, then it was harder to hear you.
All right.
John, I think I heard about 10% of everything that you said.
What all it's worth.
All right, anything else? If not, meeting adjourned.